And next we'll open it up for Jenny.
How's everybody doing? Are you guys having fun yet? I know it's weird, right? We're in the Zoom world. I've never done one of these through Zoom, so it's my first time. Hopefully it will work. Usually I'm used to rooms of people, but it's always good to try something new. So thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. So happy to be here. I've never been where your university is, but hopefully one day I'll make it there. But my movie did play there. So hopefully you guys have seen it. If you haven't, check it out. It's on Amazon Prime, The Russian Five. So before I got to where I am now, which is a film and television producer, I have learned so many lessons in life, and I'm gonna share them with you guys. So let's start where I come from. So I came from the Soviet Union, a very colorful country. As you see, we had pretty much couple colors. It was black, gray, and red, just like you see this. This is Red Square. So again, you see it's sort of very drab Soviet Union behind the Iron Curtain. Everything you've heard at that time was definitely true. We had, well, as a kid, I always loved talking to people. So this is where my great networking skills come from. I enjoyed the telephone, even if it was fake. I also did have one of those big Russian hats that you guys have heard about. So you could see it right here. That's the proof. So growing up in the Soviet Union, we had lines and we would stand in those lines without ever knowing what we're going to get there. So whatever it is that was there, we knew we needed it. Could have been toilet paper, could have been bread. So that is absolutely true that those lines existed. So at that time when I was growing up, this is what you guys were doing. You had video games, right? It was exciting. You could go to the arcade. And again, I'm kind of old, so you have this picture. Nowadays, you guys are sitting at home playing the video games. Well, this is what we had for fun. So we took a piece of elastic and we stretched it and we jumped on it. So that was one of the most popular games. Our second most popular game, really, this is exactly what it is. People holding a stick and they're throwing it at that can. Like literally, that's the toys that we had while we were growing up. So what did I learn from that? Absence of choice always sparks creativity. So we did not have video games. We only had one television channel. So we were constantly forced to be creative as kids. And I think nowadays we see this in society. Kids are very distracted. There's a lot of television, there's a lot of video games. And I think the creativity is really stifled by all of this information overload. So hopefully you can stay creative and stay off of a lot of these different devices, because that really definitely helped me tune in my creativity. So I grew up in Russia. We had a summer house and I would go to my summer house to visit my grandma. Well, I would be exiled there mostly from my friends to visit my grandma. So we had a garden and my grandma would make me carry 100 buckets of water from this well every other day. What I did not understand at the time is I would see a pump on the other side of this field. And I would always say, couldn't we just get a hose and stretch it and just water the garden? And she would say, no, you have to carry this. This is me later paying an homage to a well that I miss so much. But what did I learn? I ended up learning, oh, why is this not going? So what I learned from my grandmother is not to take the easy way out and put in the work. And this is probably at 12 or 11 years old where beginning of my work ethic was built. And I did not know what she was doing. I didn't like her for that very much, but I did carry that water every other day. But boy, did it tell me not to take the easy way out. When I turned 14 years old, my parents came to me and they said, we're going to America. So we got on a plane, but we couldn't come to America. We were refugees, so we had to go to Italy. We left with $100 and 6 suitcases. A lot of things in those suitcases were things that we would carry to sell along the way in order for us to make money, because we didn't have any money. So this is Italy. We brought a lot of different things with us and we would sell them at a market in Italy. Usually at this point I say, who can guess what this is? But since you guys are not talking to me, I will tell you what this is. So these are condoms that are blown up. because in Italy, apparently you couldn't buy condoms. So we knew that. So we would bring condoms and we would blow them up. We didn't really speak Italian. So we would stand on the corner and we would scream anti-bambino. So this is what a Russian condom looked like. What did I learn from that? When selling a niche product, you need to educate your consumer by any means necessary, which ultimately leads to sales. So this was my first array into sales and understanding that you need to educate your consumers, even when you're not speaking their language or selling things that are kind of weird, you know. So sales were coming to me at 14 years old when I was on my way to America. So this is how I pictured America before I got here. I saw movies. And I was like, wow, America is going to look like this. Instead, this is where I came. I was standing in Oak Park. This was the exact apartment where I ended up living. And I was quite disappointed looking at that. I also thought that people in America look like Sex in the City, as you guys saw. But when I got here, I mostly saw regular Americans, which was not the image at all that I had. So what I learned at that time is unrealistic expectations lead to disappointments. So make sure your expectations are always realistic. I couldn't have realistic expectations at that time, of course, because I pictured America just through what I saw, which were movies. So this is a Soviet Union fashion show. So my mother was a number second designer in the Soviet Union for fashion. Now, there wasn't much fashion in the Soviet Union, but there was some. So this is one of her fashions. So this is my mother when we came to America. She went to work for a Korean lady that paid her $3 an hour. And every day she would tell her that she doesn't know if she has a job for her tomorrow. And what I learned from that is don't be entitled and nothing is beneath you. I watched my mother go to work every single day. And she went from really being a designer, being one of the most revered people that everybody in the Soviet Union would want her designs, her to make the clothes, to going to work in that environment without ever knowing if, you know, she's going to have a job and doing whatever it took to keep us afloat. So when I was a young girl, this is pioneers, you know, we were little communists. Everybody had to do this. I went to music school because you would go to music school, you would go to drawing school besides your regular schooling. And in my music school, I was told that I have absolutely no hearing. In Russia, they would put it that bears walked all over your ears. So I had no hearing. I had absolutely no chance in making it in music. And I better off give up this idea and go play soccer instead, which is exactly what I did. When I came to America, however, and I was sitting in that little apartment that you guys saw, I saw these people on TV. And I don't know if you've ever seen this, and you guys should Google this. It's called The New Dance Show. It was a Detroit version of the Soul Train. And it was in somebody's basement. And these people played the best music, had the best outfits, and they were dancing. And I said to myself, one day I will find them because they look like really fun people. So in one day I found people like that, and that became my community, which was house music community. And I saw people DJing and playing the music. So eventually I would end up becoming a world traveling DJ. And I would go on to play Detroit Electronic Music Festival in front of thousands of people. So what did I learn looking back at that is literally don't listen to naysayers. So all of those people that told me I had no hearing, they could have really helped me develop my hearing. Or if you really want to do something, I mean, obviously if you're not, you know, super tall and you're trying to really play basketball, even though there's some shorter guys that are amazing basketball players. So basically, unless there's something physically preventing you, and even that's questionable, don't listen to people. If you have a dream, go for it. All of it is quite achievable. And I toured as a DJ for many, many years before I started this career. So in business, I was a serial entrepreneur at a very young age. This is the first business I ever opened. It was in Hamtramck, Michigan. It was a resale shop. And this is where I learned about location. So my business kept getting broken into before I would get there from my house. There was no cops there. And it would cost me every time a lot more money to repair the shop, repair the windows than actually what people were stealing. So that business failed, amongst many different other businesses that I had that failed. And failure is just a part of what we do every day. I promise you guys, you're going to fail. Nothing is perfect. Nobody is perfect. Failure will face every single person, every single one of us. However, what I learned is you have to fail forward. It may seem like the end of the world of the time, but failure is an essential part of success. Nobody has ever learned anything from always just being purely successful. Everything I ever learned in life has come from failure. And it's important to analyze every single time that you fail. And you just say, what happened? Like really, what has happened? And to be honest with yourself, to carry those lessons forward and to get up and to do it again. Otherwise, I wouldn't be where I am today personally. Where are we today? So I am a film and television producer. This is me on set. One of the core shows that I produce is called Startup. It's on PBS. We're 8 seasons in now. And it's a show about entrepreneurship and small business. We travel across the country and we get to ask people how it is that they followed their dreams and what it is that they're doing. You guys can catch a show on PBS. It's on Sundays. On pbs.org, you can stream the show. You could watch it on Amazon Prime. This is us on set. We get to travel and do really incredible things like play with camels. And this is the trailer for the show. So you guys check this out.
Join us for Startup Season 7, where we travel through Idaho Falls, Idaho, Ogden and Salt Lake City, Utah, Fort Collins, Denver, and Boulder, Colorado, and back to Flint and Detroit, Michigan. Startup Season 7 features a diverse group of small business owners.
Is this a multi-million-dollar business now?
It is.
How does that feel? Is that surreal for you? And it didn't take me long to learn that this was not designed to sit behind a desk.
Is the business profitable right now?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Francis, how are we doing?
Dipper is a paralyzed wiener dog, and the owners decided to surrender him to the rescue.
Hard work, perseverance, and vision is all it takes. All right, let's get down to business.
This is Startup.
So if you guys want to get educated in small business and entrepreneurship across the country, check out the show. So what have I learned? To always be open to possibilities. When Gary, who you see hosting a show, my business partner, came to me, I had never made a television show before, ever. I was already in the business. I had a production company. He said, do you want to make this TV show? And I was like, yeah, why not? Everybody starts somewhere. Everybody puts their pants on the same way in the morning, one leg at a time. So always be open to what it is. And maybe it's something you've never done before, but if you're passionate about it, if you're interested about it, then you should try it, because what's the worst thing? So it's not your thing and you'll start something new, but always be open. So after everything I've learned, what does it really take to make it in business? And mind you, by now I have spoken to, let's say this is 192, it's more like 300 different business owners in depth. I've learned how they did it, what they did. So I gathered some words that always are coming together. So it's perseverance, it's fun, it's chutzpah, it's sacrifice, it's grit, it's purpose. So these are all the things that's what it really takes to be an entrepreneur, and so much more. So I'm gonna leave you guys with one of my favorite quotes. Ideas are shit. I apologize for that word. If anybody's offended, execution is the game. I really truly believe in that. When people consistently ask me what makes people successful, you can have a million ideas in the world. But what makes people successful is really the execution of those ideas. And the lady that asked earlier, how do I start a project? You do it. You start by doing it. You just do it. The more you think about it, the more you go, is it going to work? Is it not? You do it and you go for it. And that's how you start. I know we're tight on time.
All right.
So cut point.
No, we're good. Yeah, thank you. That was fantastic. So do we have any questions from the audience? Let's just go ahead and open it up for, you can enter your questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself if you would like. And you can ask any one of our panelists.
Hi, I have a question. It's Elizabeth Rasmussen. Thanks for talking. That was a great talk. And I guess I can like unmute my video too, so you can see me. Hi. So I guess like that's a lot of businesses that you've interviewed, which is pretty awesome. And I didn't know about that show, but I'm definitely going to tune in now. So congratulations on that success in season 6. That's fantastic. I guess my question is, I love your points about like just doing it. I think that's a great mentality to have as a startup, small business. I guess from like those interviews and your own experience, what have you seen like separates the, I guess, people who make it? And I guess there's different definitions of make it, but like some people have loftier goals than others. And like, what do you think separates them other than just like doing it, right? Like, is it, yeah, you know.
I think it's passion and being true to what you're doing. I mean, really, I believe it's everything. I once saw a guy talk and he said passion doesn't matter in business. And I called his bullshit because it matters so much. Honestly, you know, when you tune in and you see a 19-year-old girl this season that created a doll so other girls who are African American can learn to do hair and could see themselves in a doll, and not just a doll who is just painted a different color, but she's really truly passionate about representing different nationalities, different looks, right? She's only 19, she blew me away. By 22, she's got a product out there and she executed, but she loves it. She's like, this is what my purpose is. And I think finding your purpose and intent is probably the most difficult thing in the world. I did not find it till I was way into my 30s. I was trying different things and I was having fun, but it's figuring out what are you passionate about, what you want to do, then doing research and then doing it. And don't be afraid to ask people who are in this business any sort of questions. You'd be surprised at this level, at a higher level, how much people are willing to share.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right, do we have any other questions?
I have a question.
I have a question for all of, oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Dar.
Thanks. All right. Hi, April. I am also a fellow Detroiter, kind of turned Youper, sort of. But I wanted to kind of hear, I think all the panelists talked about, you know, a little bit about their background and where they were from, but I wanted to hear a little bit from you about your experiences growing up in Detroit and why it was important for you to establish your organization, your business in the community that you were from.
That's a great question. I appreciate that question. So I talked about, you know, making things better. And so every time I start anything, it's about making it better. Again, not just for me, but for anyone that touches it. So I have a passion for, you know, folks who are don't have access to certain kinds of resources. It could be because of financial, but in this particular aspect, it's due to something that they have very little control over. So everyone has a grandmother. Everyone has had a grandmother or a grandfather, or someone in your community that you've recognized needed extra assistance, but there may not have been those resources available. And especially in Detroit, I mean, again, my beginnings were really humble. There were times when we didn't have food on the table. We didn't have a plan for dinner. So being able to say, okay, this is a product of Detroit. I'm successful. I'm an example to, you know, a lot of other kids who may not know that they have the ability to set a sight for themselves and achieve whatever they want, even you know, a 7-figure business. A lot of, you know, kids don't have those aspirations simply because they don't see folks that look like me have those resources. But also being able to establish a business that's not just a resource for individuals, because we work with a lot of folks on insurance programs that are for folks that can't afford the best PPO there is in the world or in Michigan. We also employ a lot of folks who who need jobs in the Metro Detroit area in Detroit. So I'm happy to make that contribution to my community in terms of a resource as an example of what can be, but also providing employment opportunities for people in the city.
Great, thanks, April. Any other questions for our panelists?
Hi, I had one question. So this is just directed at any of the panelists, I guess. How did you guys kind of start your business like financially? Like, did you get funding from bigger companies? Did you just kind of figure it out on your own? And yeah, I guess that's really it.
I can start. Hi, Jordan. So my brother loaned me $20,000. Yep, that's how it all started. And it was the biggest ask I'd ever asked in my entire life. He's 20 years older than I am. And, again, I was shyer and quieter back then. And, but I did it. And he, we worked out a payment agreement, a loan, and I paid him back and then some. So I was fortunate because there were a lot of sales coming in and we bootstrapped everything for the most part. My partner also did take a loan from her family as well. And so, so we did not seek out a loan. However, there are a lot of loans available to women-owned businesses. There are a lot of loans out there available and grants. So that's there today. There weren't so many when I was doing it back in 2005, but today, oh yeah, there's a lot.
I once borrowed money from my mother for one of my businesses and it failed horribly. And it felt so bad owing my mother $30,000. I mean, so bad because we didn't have money and I was so naive and, I had a nature of being overly optimistic at times, but I've learned my lesson from that. When we started a production company, it was a very interesting story because we thought we're going to have a hit show and people are going to give us money, but we're on PBS. So PBS told us, well, now you're going to have to go and find the money. So, we just like many other businesses had to go and raise the money. So I found myself sitting at American Express Tower on 41st floor, asking them for $450,000. I've never asked anybody for more than 25 before. And thinking to myself, what am I doing here? But it was a super gutsy move. And we ended up closing that. And I'm still friends to this day with this woman 8 years later who works for American Express. They no longer sponsor us. And she told me actually last year, she's like, do you know where I gave you the money? I'm like, no. She's like, the show didn't exist, but you were so passionate when you were pitching me about what you were doing. And then you said one phrase that stuck with me for the rest of my life, which was, I'm a woman of my word, and I can assure you that this is going to be an amazing thing for you. And she remembers that 8 years later. So when you're pitching, make sure you're very firm and very passionate so people could see that, because a lot of times they give you money based on who you are and not even your full flushed out idea.
Oh, I'll quickly just add that we completely bootstrapped. I had this thing about asking for money or even getting loans, so I never did. So it was just out of our pockets, and we literally just started small and just grew from there. I wouldn't, especially like Linda said, there's so many things available. I just judged EO competition for young entrepreneurs, young student entrepreneurs a few days ago. And ladies, just go for it, go for it. I know the field of entrepreneurship is dominated by men these days and young men, but, there are folks who want to give you the financial resources to start your dreams. So don't be afraid to seek those options out and be present. Don't feel like you have to have it all buttoned up to do a presentation, to pitch an idea. Just do it and you learn as you go. And like I said, there are people who want to make it rain, give you all the cash you need to make you successful. So just don't be afraid to step into that space just because you don't have the dollars right now.
Great. Thank you. We have another question here in our chat. Can you share experiences about planning the startup costs and how long you had to survive without paying yourselves? And so, yeah. So, and we'd love to hear from each of you for that.
Oh my God, I was lucky enough to be in music and DJing and in parallel to start my business. So I think I did not pay myself in my production company for probably at least 3 years. But I was DJing and I was playing and I had other source of income, you know, to support me. But it took a really long time until I paid myself, because all the money we made just went right back into business and paying other people and employing other people. But that's a trade-off, right? You have to have something else, because we will have to eat and we'll have to pay the bills.
Sure.
So it was about 2 to 3 years for me as well. Like everything that all the sales that came in, we had to reinvest into the company, hire different people, get new tools, what have you, rent, whatever was needed at the time. And then somehow you also still have to show some profitability, or try to, right? It takes a little while to be profitable, but you don't get discouraged, you get there. Definitely get there.
Great, thanks.
I would say that I took a similar amount of time, maybe longer. I would say this: I always paid myself something, a little bit of something, not a full like salary that I pay myself now, but it was something. I started Express as a side hustle that turned into my full-time gig, the only thing we're dedicated to. So I had other sources of income coming in, and it wasn't until we dedicated ourselves that it really, really took off. But it's always good to recognize your efforts a little bit, but it did take about maybe between year 4 and year 5 until we could really start to, see really great profits where we could start fully, paying ourselves for our work.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good thing for entrepreneurs to be aware of if they find themselves in that situation, to know that this is kind of this is something that could happen, and to keep forging ahead and stick with their dreams. So I just want to let everyone know that we are at 1 o'clock. Individuals have shared some resources. There were some questions in the chat about resources for finance and for funding. And so check out the chat if you're interested in that. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, and I certainly want to be sure to thank our panelists. Thank you so much, April, Linda, and Jenny, for joining us. This is a great talk. We've enjoyed having you. We hope that you'll come and join us again for another talk sometime. But this has been great, and thank you to our audience for joining us. And yeah, just take this inspiration, and happy Women in Entrepreneurship Day. So, all right, thanks everybody.